New York State is more than bustling cities and iconic landmarks. It's a land of untamed wilderness, ancient legends, and spine-chilling mysteries. From the depths of dark forests to hidden corners of quiet lakes, this state holds secrets that defy explanation. Could they be cryptids? Creatures lurking just beyond the edge of belief? Join me as I uncover the eerie stories, sightings, and myths of New York's most elusive cryptids. Champ is the nickname for a legendary lake monster said to inhabit Lake Champlain, which lies between New York and Vermont, extending slightly into Quebec, Canada. This cryptid has been a part of regional folklore since the 17th century, with sightings and tales dating back to Native American legends. The indigenous Abenaki people referred to a creature in the lake as Tedoskak, describing it as a large, mysterious animal that lurked in the water. Later, French explorer Samuel de Champlain, after whom the lake is named, reportedly saw a strange 20-foot serpent-like creature there in 1609, which fueled early European tales of a lake monster. Descriptions of Champ vary, but most depict it as a long, serpentine creature, often with a humped back, resembling the descriptions of Scotland's Loch Ness Monster. Witnesses commonly report a creature between 15 and 25 feet long, with dark, scaly skin and sometimes with horns or a head similar to a horse or snake. Some suggest it resembles a plesiosaur, an extinct marine reptile with a long neck, large body, and flippers. Reports have also varied, with some sightings claiming Champ has multiple humps or fins that appear above the water. Over the years, Champ has gained significant attention with sightings by fishermen, tourists, and even government officials. In the 1970s, a photograph taken by Sandra Mansi purportedly showed a long neck and head protruding from Lake Champlain's waters. Though this image is one of the most famous pieces of evidence for Champ's existence, it remains controversial, as experts dispute its authenticity and point out the challenges of providing the creature's existence in a lake as large and deep as Champlain. Champ has become an icon in the Lake Champlain area, celebrated with local festivals and embraced by regional businesses and tourism. While many believe Champ sightings could be misidentified sturgeons, otters, or waves, Champ remains one of North America's most beloved cryptids, inspiring curiosity and sparking debate among skeptics, enthusiasts, and cryptozoologists alike. The Sandra Mansi sighting. Sandra grew up near Lake Champlain. When she was a child, her grandfather teased her with scary stories of the legendary sea creature. When she was a child, her grandfather teased her with scary tales of the legendary sea creature. Grandfather told us all about Champ, and when we would go fishing, he would say to us, "If you don't sit down and behave in the boat, I'm going to throw you over and Champ's going to eat you." Of course, we did not believe a word of it. Then, in July of 1977, Sandra, her 2 children, and her fiancé Tony were on a vacation near Lake Champlain. We stopped at this one place, and the children were down further on the beach, having a great time, and Tony decided to go back to the car and get the camera. And I'm looking out at the lake, and the lake started churning. My first thought was scuba divers, but then it's too much. It would be too big of a group to be scuba divers. But then fish. There's some very large sturgeon and big walleyes in Champlain, so I thought, well, it's a very, very large school of fish. Then the head and the neck came up out of the water, and then the back. And I watched it turn its head and neck and look around. When it first came up, its mouth was open, and I could see water coming out of the mouth, and I'm feeling like I shouldn't be there. Because to me, this thing should have been extinct 30 million years ago. But I'm not frightened. I'm in total awe and very calm. Then Tony came back and he saw it, and he got all panicky, screaming and hollering at the kids to get out of the water. He helped me get up the bank, and when he did, he handed me the camera, and I turned around and it's still there. And I picked up the camera and took one shot. When Sandra saw the picture she had taken, she was certain it was Champ. She was equally certain that no one would believe her, so she threw away the negative and kept the photo hidden. Finally, Sandra had the snapshot blown up into an 8 by 10 inch print. The object in the Mansi photograph resembled a plesiosaur, which is an aquatic reptile from the Cretaceous period about 60 to 70 million years ago, long neck and flippers. It resembles that, but that's a long time to have survived. Unsolved.com. The Kinderhook blob is a peculiar, lesser-known cryptid from the Hudson Valley area in New York, specifically near the small village of Kinderhook. Unlike more famous cryptids with established folklore, the Kinderhook blob is a relative newcomer to the paranormal scene, with sightings emerging in the mid-20th century and scattered reports continuing over time. This mysterious creature is described as an amorphous, blob-like entity, often appearing as a large, jelly-like mass with an undefined fluid shape that reportedly shifts and changes as it moves. The creature is said to range in size, sometimes described as being small, the size of a large dog, and as big as a boulder. Physical appearance and characteristics. The Kinderhook blob is often depicted as a slimy, oozing mass with a texture akin to thick sludge or gelatinous muck. Its color has been reported as anything from a sickly translucent green to a deep muddy brown, sometimes with hints of phosphorescent glow, particularly at night. Unlike typical animal sightings, the blob has no visible limbs, head, or eyes, giving it an alien and unsettling appearance. Its form is said to move by expanding and contracting, almost like a slug or amoeba, and it reportedly leaves behind a thick, sticky residue on anything it touches. Witnesses have sometimes reported a faint odor accompanying the creature, often compared to sulfur or decaying vegetation, which adds to its eerie presence. This odor, along with its strange appearance, has led some to speculate that the creature might be linked to swamp gases, decaying organic material, or even pollution in the area. However, its movement, occasionally glowing appearance, and reports of slight sounds, a faint sucking or squelching noise, have given rise to the belief that this is an organic, possibly sentient life form. Sightings and encounters. Most reported encounters with the Kinderhook blob occur at night, particularly on foggy or misty evenings when visibility is low. Sightings are concentrated near bodies of water such as ponds, rivers, and wetlands, which makes sense given its slimy aquatic nature. Some locals claim to have seen the creature along creek beds or emerging from marshy areas, slithering or rolling across the ground before disappearing back into the underbrush or water. Encounters with the Kinderhook blob tend to be brief and disturbing rather than directly dangerous. Witnesses often describe feeling an intense unease or even a mild nausea in the creature's presence, as though it emits some kind of low-frequency hum or atmospheric disturbance. Additionally, sightings usually end with the blob retreating into the water or brush, and no known direct attacks have been reported. Nonetheless, the blob's mere presence is enough to unnerve those who come across it. Theories and explanations. The Kinderhook blob has inspired various theories from scientific to supernatural. Number 1. Natural phenomenon. Some cryptozoologists suggest the blob could be an example of star jelly or astral jelly, a mysterious gelatinous substance that sometimes appears after meteor showers and is speculated to be organic matter or algae carried by the wind or ejected from a meteorite. Another theory is that the blob is a mutated form of algae, fungus, or slime mold that has grown to an unusually large size, possibly due to environmental factors or pollution in the local waterways. Number 2. Extraterrestrial origin. Given the strange, glowing characteristic and the fact that it doesn't seem to fit within known biological classifications, some people believe that the Kinderhook blob might be extraterrestrial. They theorize it could be an alien organism or a spore that arrived via a meteor, explaining both its strange composition and its seemingly amoebic movements. Number 3. Supernatural entity. Some locals prefer to view the Kinderhook blob as a paranormal entity or ghostly manifestation. In this interpretation, the blob could be the spectral residue of something tragic or unnatural that occurred in the area. The Hudson Valley has a long history of ghost sightings and supernatural lore, and the blob might be seen as an extension of this local folklore. Number 4. Environmental mutation. Given its appearance near polluted or marshy areas, another explanation is that the blob could be a mutated life form created by toxic waste or environmental pollution. This theory suggests the blob might be an example of environmental deformity, a new species or altered life form arising from chemicals leaching into the water or soil. Cultural impact. Though the Kinderhook blob isn't widely known outside cryptid enthusiast circles, it has developed a modest local following. Its ambiguity and eerie nature lend it an allure that has attracted the attention of paranormal investigators, cryptozoologists, and even a few horror writers. The blob has made its way into a few local legends, with stories of the blob that haunts Kinderhook Creek circulated among local youth, especially during Halloween. In summary, the Kinderhook blob remains a mysterious figure in American cryptid lore. Its lack of defined features combined with its strange, disturbing presence has kept people guessing about its nature and origins. Whether it's a misunderstood natural phenomenon, an alien life form, or a supernatural being, the Kinderhook blob's unsettling presence continues to fuel curiosity, making it an enduring, if a little unknown, part of New York's cryptozoological heritage. This is the account of a 10-year-old boy who, in 1962, had the first sighting of the Kinderhook blob, the source being Monsters of New York, Mysterious Creatures in the Empire State by Bruce G. Hollenbeck. When I was 10 years old, 1962, I was up in the woods behind our house with my cousin Chari, who was then age 7. We both heard this really high-pitched whistle noise. They looked for the source of the sound, and Hollenbeck described a white object peering at me from behind a nearby pine tree. He would later clarify the statement with, "I say peering, but in fact it had no eyes that I could see." The two children hastily ran back to the Hollenbeck's parents' home. For 2 years all was quiet. But then an unnamed man was hiking through the woods when he saw a big white blob floating towards him. It terrified him so much that he jumped over a pond measuring 6 feet across. He eventually mustered up the courage to return to the scene with his once skeptical friend, armed with shovels and pitchforks, ready to confront the beast. The friend suddenly turned white as a sheet. He silently pointed ahead to a white shape, which was hovering through the trees. They both lost courage, dropped their weapons, and ran away. Some say the third encounter was in 1964, others in 1978. Regardless, this run-in with the beast was with Barry Scott and Russell Lee, who were both 14 at the time. According to them, the first sign something was out of the ordinary was the tramping outside of the tent. How it can both float and tramp is also a mystery. They peeked outside the tent and saw an entity almost identical to the other reports. This time, it looked more like a ghost than a typical blob. Both agree it floated more than it walked, but Barry described it as bell-shaped, and Russell as the Virgin Mary. The most recent encounter was in 2017 when town locals Owen Farley and Anthony Malinowski witnessed the blob on a late-night walk. According to them, before the sighting, the temperature dropped, and there was a loud, high-pitched screech. The figure described as a white blob around 7 feet tall appeared from the woods and floating towards them at a high speed, causing the two to run away. The Montauk Monster. The Montauk Monster is a cryptid, or unexplained creature, that gained attention in July 2008 after its carcass washed ashore on a beach in Montauk, New York. The bizarre appearance of the creature, which was hairless, with a bloated body and beak-like snout, led to widespread speculation about its identity. Theories about the Montauk Monster included: Number 1. A decomposed raccoon or other known animal. Many experts suggested the creature was a raccoon, dog, or other mammal whose appearance had been altered by decomposition and prolonged exposure to water, causing the skin to lose hair and the body to become distorted. Number 2. Genetic experiment or escapee from a laboratory. Some conspiracy theories tied the creature to the nearby Plum Island Animal Disease Center, speculating that it could be the result of genetic experiments gone wrong. This fueled rumors about secretive government projects. Number 3. A hoax. Others argued that the Montauk monster could have been a deliberate fabrication or the remains of an animal intentionally altered to spark curiosity. No conclusive evidence or official investigation confirmed its true nature. Photos of the creature spread quickly online and in the media, amplifying its mystery. The carcass reportedly disappeared shortly after its discovery, adding to the intrigue. Today, the Montauk monster is regarded as an enduring mystery, though most scientists lead toward the explanation that it was a misidentified decomposed animal. On July 12, 2008, Jenna Hewitt and her friends Rachel Goldberg and Courtney Fruin hit the beach at Ditch Plains. The hot summer Sunday made for ideal conditions to stroll, but as the group of East Hampton natives continued, they came across a heart-stopping sight. It looked like a sun-baked dog carcass with strange bindings around its legs, but it didn't seem like the right size to be a dog, and instead of a snout, the creature seemed to have a beak. Hewitt took a photo of the dead animal, which spread like wildfire across the internet. Indeed, the isolated tip of Long Island has been home to other alleged paranormal events, such as the Montauk Project, which supposedly launched time travel experiments at the Montauk Air Force Base. When Ellen Killoran wrote about the Montauk monster for The Observer in 2008, an acquaintance told her that Montauk is a place with a lot of secrets. Marco Margaritov and John Karosky, from allthingsinteresting.com. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is a legendary cryptid often described as a large, hairy, human-like creature. While Bigfoot sightings are most commonly associated in the Pacific Northwest, reports of similar creatures have been documented across North America, including New York State, particularly in areas like the Adirondack Mountains, the Catskills, and the Hudson Valley. Characteristics: typically described as being between 6 and 10 feet tall with dark brown or black fur. Said to have large feet, with footprints measuring up to 24 inches long. Often described as reclusive, bipedal, and capable of making loud vocalizations such as howls or screams. Bigfoot in New York State. The Adirondack Mountains are a hotspot for reported sightings, with dense forests and remote areas providing a plausible habitat for a large elusive creature. The Hudson Valley has seen reports of unusual footprints, strange noises, and fleeting glimpses of large, hairy figures. Witnesses have described encounters involving sightings of the creature, strange tracks, and sometimes a strong foul odor attributed to the cryptid. Evidence: footprints. Plaster casts of large footprints have been reported in rural New York areas. Audio recordings. Some claim to have captured howls or vocalizations attributed to Bigfoot. Eyewitness accounts. Anecdotal reports remain the primary source of evidence for Bigfoot's existence, though they lack scientific verification. Scientific perspective. The scientific community remains skeptical, citing a lack of physical evidence such as bones, verified DNA, or clear photographic documentation. Most scientists attribute Bigfoot sightings to misidentifications of known animals, hoaxes, or psychological factors. Despite the skepticism, Bigfoot continues to captivate public imagination and is part of local folklore in New York, with enthusiasts organizing expeditions and events dedicated to the search for this elusive cryptid. Officers track creature. Whitehall. Police are investigating reports of a large unidentified creature seen last week in the town of Whitehall. The first sighting of the creature, which some have referred to as the notorious Bigfoot, was reported last Tuesday by Marty Paddock of Whitehall and Paul Goslin of Lowhampton. They were starting out on a camping trip in the Abear Road vicinity when Paddock spotted a huge shape on the side of the road. They returned to the area twice, reportedly seeing the creature on the third visit as it moved through a field toward Paddock's truck. Paddock said they left and returned later with a friend and that all three men saw it on that trip, after which they reported the incident to Whitehall police. Whitehall police, New York State Police, and a Washington County deputy sheriff all responded to the scene and searched the area, but were only able to spot the creature from a distance. Although descriptions vary somewhat, the creature has been widely described by both police officials and civilians as between 7 and 8 feet tall, very hairy, having pink or red eyes, being afraid of light, and weighing between 300 and 400 pounds. It reportedly makes a sound that has been described as a loud pig squeal or a woman's scream or a combination. The creature also walks upright rather than on all fours, which has resulted in the eyewitnesses ruling out the possibility that the mysterious creature was a bear. Whitehall Police Sergeant Wilfred Goslin said all he was able to see of the creature was an awful tall shadow in the field off Abear Road. He said based on the descriptions given by his son and friends, as well as other policemen, "I'm not saying this is a monster or anything else, but there is something out there, and it's no animal that belongs in the northern part of the state." The sergeant said footprints much wider and 3 times the length of a man's were found in the area. These footprints did not have claws. The sergeant reported that the creature has not hurt any humans, but said it was possible it had killed a deer found in the meadow there. Brian Goslin, the sergeant's son and Paul's older brother, a patrolman on the Whitehall force, said he saw the creature on Wednesday. He said the creature came within 25 feet of his squad car before a state trooper flashed a light in the creature's eyes. Goslin said the light caused the creature to cover its eyes and run away screaming. The Post-Star, published August 30th, 1976. The flying head is a mythical cryptid deeply rooted in the folklore of the Iroquois and other indigenous tribes of the northeastern United States, particularly in what is now New York State. Known as Kanatastones in some traditions, the flying head is a terrifying supernatural being that has been described in various ways, with stories often serving as cautionary tales or allegories. Physical description. The flying head is typically depicted as an enormous, disembodied human head with grotesque features. It is often described as having glowing, fiery eyes, a massive mouth filled with sharp teeth, and a mane of tangled, sometimes fiery, hair. In some versions of the legend, the head has wings sprouting from its sides or back, allowing it to hover or fly through the air. Its size is said to be enormous, often larger than a person. Some accounts include claws or talons protruding from its body, adding to its fearsome appearance. Origin stories. The origin of the flying head varies between different accounts and tribes, but many tales suggest it is a vengeful spirit or an embodiment of a cursed or restless soul. One common origin story involves a tribe committing an atrocity, such as decapitating a powerful enemy, only for the severed head to return to life, imbued with supernatural rage. In other versions, the flying head arises as a punishment for greed, betrayal, or other moral failings, serving as a warning against such behaviors. Behavior. The flying head is portrayed as a malevolent entity wreaking havoc on those who encounter it. It is known to terrorize villages, stalk the forests, and attack individuals, often seeking revenge or simply instilling fear. The head's supernatural nature makes it nearly indestructible, as it is not bound by mortal limitations. In some stories, the flying head preys on humans and animals, feeding on their flesh. It is said to emit terrifying screams or roars, which can paralyze those who hear it. However, the flying head is not invincible. Certain versions of the legend recount how cleverness, bravery, or specific rituals can ward off or defeat it. Cultural significance. The flying head serves as a symbol in many Native American tales, often representing the consequences of violence, disrespect for nature, or breaking cultural taboos. Its stories were passed down orally and used to teach moral lessons or explain unexplainable natural phenomena. In this way, it functions similarly to other cryptids or supernatural beings in folklore around the world. Modern interpretations. Today, the flying head is sometimes regarded as a cryptid in the realm of paranormal enthusiasts and cryptozoologists, who investigate its place in folklore and its possible connections to alleged sightings of mysterious entities in the Adirondack region of New York. While it remains firmly rooted in myth, its legacy continues to capture the imagination of those interested in indigenous stories, regional folklore, and the unexplained. One possible origin story. Many of the Iroquois were supposedly troubled by the flying head, which, when it rested upon the ground, was taller than a man. This supposed monster was coated in thick black hair, it had wings like a bat and talons. One evening, after they had been plagued a long time with fearful visitations, the flying head came to the door of a lodge occupied by a lone woman. She was sitting before the fire, roasting acorns, which, as they became cooked, she took from the fire and ate. Terrified by the power of the woman, who he thought was eating live coals, the flying head left and bothered them no more. An alternate version of this part of the legend says that, rather than seeing a woman eating acorns and thinking she was eating live coals, the flying head stole live coals from her and tried to eat them, thinking they were acorns. The results, of course, disastrous. The flying head flees in agony, never to be seen again. Sewer alligators. The legend of sewer alligators in New York City is a popular urban myth that claims large alligators live and thrive in the city's underground sewer system. While the story is largely considered a fictional urban legend, it has persisted in popular culture since the early 20th century. Here are some key details about the myth. Origins. The legend gained traction in the 1920s and 1930s, often tied to stories of baby alligators being purchased as exotic pets and later discarded into toilets when they became too large or unmanageable. A 1935 incident. The most famous account involves an article published in the New York Times in 1935, which reported that sewer workers allegedly found and killed an 8-foot alligator in a Manhattan sewer. This story added credibility to the myth at the time. Here is the February 10, 1935 New York Times article. Alligator found in Uptown Sewer. The youthful residents of East 123rd Street near the murky Harlem River were having a rather grand time at dusk yesterday shoveling the last of the recent snow into a gaping manhole. Salvatore Condalucci, 16 years old, of 419 East 123rd Street, was assigned to the rim. His comrades would heap blackened mush near him, and he, carefully observing the sewer's capacity, would give the last fine flick to each mound. Suddenly, there were signs of clogging 10 feet below, where the manhole drop merged with the dark conduit leading to the river. Salvatore yelled, "Hey you guys, wait a minute," and got down on his knees to see what the trouble was. What he saw, in the thickening dusk, almost caused him to topple into the icy cavern. For the jagged surface of the ice blockade below was moving, and something black was breaking through. Salvatore's eyes widened. Then he managed to leap to his feet and call his friends. "Honest, it's an alligator," he exploded. There was a murmur of skepticism. Jimmy Moreno, 19, of 440 East 123rd Street, shouldered his way to the rim and stared. "He's right," he said. Frank Lonzo, 18, of 1743 Park Avenue, looked next. He also confirmed the specter. Then there was a great crush about the opening in the middle of the street, and heads were bent low around the aperture. The animal apparently was threshing about in the ice trying to get clear. When the first wave of awe had passed, the boys decided to help it out. A delegation was dispatched to the Lehigh Stove and Repair Shop at 441 East 123rd Street. "We want some clothesline," demanded the delegation, and got it. Young Condalucci, an expert on Western movies, fashioned a slip knot. With the others watching breathlessly, he dangled the noose into the sewer, and after several tantalizing near catches, looped it about the gator's neck. Then he pulled hard. There was a grating of rough, leathery skin against jumbled ice, but the job was too much for one youth. The others grabbed the rope and all pulled. Slowly, with its curving tail twisting weakly, the animal was dragged from the snow, 10 feet through the dank cavern, into the street, where it lay non-committal. It was not in Florida, that was clear. And therefore, when one of the boys sought to loosen the rope, the creature opened its jaws and snapped. Not with the robust vigor of a healthy, well-sunned alligator, but with the fury of a sick, very badly treated one. The boys jumped back. Curiosity and sympathy turned to enmity. "Let him have it," the cry went up. So the shovels that had been used to pile snow on the alligator's head were now to rain blows upon it. The gator's tail swished about a few last times. The jaws clashed weakly, but it was in no mood for a real struggle after its icy incarceration. It died on the spot. Triumphantly, but not without the inevitable reaction of sorrow, the boys took their victim to the Lehigh Stove and Repair Shop. There it was found to weigh 125 pounds. They said it measured 7.5 or 8 feet. It became at once the greatest attraction the store had ever had. The whole neighborhood milled about, and finally, a call for the police reached a nearby station. But there was little for the hurrying policeman to do. The strange visitor was quite dead, and no charge could be preferred against it or against its slayers. The neighbors were calmed with little trouble, and speculation as to where the gator had come from was rife. There are no pet shops in the vicinity. That theory was ruled out almost at once. Finally, the theory simmered down to that of a passing boat. Plainly, a steamer from the mysterious Everglades or thereabouts had been passing 123rd Street, and the alligator had fallen overboard. Shunning the hatefully cold water, it had swum toward the shore and found only the entrance to the conduit. Then, after another 150 yards through a torrent of melting snow, and by that time it was half dead, it had arrived under the open manhole. Half dead, yes, the neighborhood conceded, but still alive enough for a last splendid opening and snapping of its jaws. The boys were ready to swear to that. At about 9 p.m., when tired mothers had succeeded in getting most of their alligator-conscious youngsters to bed, a Department of Sanitation truck rumbled up to the store and made off with the prize. Its destination was Barren Island and an incinerator. Characteristics of the legend. Survival claims. According to the legend, alligators in the sewers survive on a diet of rats, garbage, and other urban refuse. Some versions claim they have adapted to the dark, cold environment by losing pigmentation or developing blindness. Origin stories. Some variations suggest that alligators were flushed on the toilet as baby pets, while others simply imply that they escaped from zoos or shipping accidents. Exaggeration. Stories often depict the alligators as unusually large, aggressive, or mutated due to toxic waste. Scientific and practical rebuttal. Unlikely environment. New York City's sewers are cold and lack sufficient food sources to sustain alligators. The cold winters would likely kill any reptiles unable to adapt to such conditions. Expert opinions. Biologists and sewer officials have repeatedly debunked the possibility of alligators surviving in such an environment long term. Cultural impact. The myth has inspired books, films, and urban folklore. It remains a fascinating example of how urban legends can capture public imagination, blending fears of the unknown with the quirks of city life. In sum, while the legend of New York sewer alligators is firmly in the realm of myth, it continues to thrive as a cultural curiosity and storytelling tradition. Thank you for listening to this video. I did a little bit of a different format this time, so please let me know if you liked it and would like to see more cryptid videos like this one in the future. What other cryptids should I cover? If you have your own scary story to share, you can comment them below, post it to my subreddit r/ihaveaspookystory, or you can submit it to my official submissions email, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in the next video. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.